Hola with Kaizen to Success Designer's Gate, just to show how I did this. The local chat install with the styles, with different styles in my OBS chat. So I'm gonna try to replicate this so I can teach you how I did it. It's gonna be a little different from What Up Ian. I cannot. The reason for it is because when I try to set up the browser to load the chat, I set up the size 500 by 800, and locals is set up uh, for adapt responsive screen. So the chat completely disappear if it's below 500, and it has to be brought up by the menu. Now what I did to compensate that, I just create the browser. I left it at 1920 by 1080, and then I crop it using the alternate drag on OBS. I will show you that real quick, but right now I'm going to record just bringing the looking at the browser, how it looks, and how we can start changing stuff in the screen, so we can have these resorts. This result, I got confused with the camera. I had to look at the preview to be able to point to the right place. Well, without further ado, let's go back. Let's get to it. So I'm gonna change to the browser. So as you see, the browser, this is a regular. I created a chat, and this is something that you can do. I'm gonna test that. I set up a live chat post in locals, and that's the chat that I will always reference. For example, if I change my, go back to the post, you see that the post is right there, but when I go to the chat screen, the chat screen is still shows. So because I'm changing this browser, it doesn't change. I'm looking at the live chat. Without further ado, let's do this. So let's go back to the browser. I'm gonna click on this so I can join the chat, and it will take some time, and it gonna loads. So as you see, um, if you see, the chat is very basic. It just have the the user icon, some tools that you can access to reply or delete the something. Someone says something that you don't want. You're gonna keep your, if you want to keep your chat family friendly. Um, and then every time you go tab, you see when you hover, it changes color and all the stuff. But we don't have to deal with that, because when you're in the in OBS, you're not interacting, so this hover will not affect. The only thing that we need to change is the the font. The font really is not that readable, so it would be hard to come here and read this. I don't know if there's a way to change this in locals. If there is, let me know in the chat. Uh, Go to the live post Q&A, and and I and I grab it from there. Another thing that we're gonna do is change fonts, the font size. We're gonna change the color of this box, um, and that's it. There's not much that you will do on this. So let's go to the HTML map, and one thing that you will need on this, I would recommend to have Edge or Chrome. We're gonna be using the developer tools. The developer tools you can access it by pressing the F12 key. If you have the function keys, it will be the function key number 12 that will bring you to the will show you the styles and it show you the HTML map. For example, if you go, let's go back to here to the, if I right click on it, you can say inspect and that will open the developer tools. But since I have it already open, I just go to the developer. I'm gonna say inspect, and in the developer tools I'm gonna say inspect again, and when I show you the HTML map, you see that, you see here that it's highlighted. So this message is controlled by p message underscore underscore content. Granted that this will change. What up Ian told me that Rumble, since they bought locals, they're gonna change the live stream to use Rumble's live stream technology. So probably this change in the future. If that happened, then I redo this in the future, and probably just by following what up Ian video about Rumble chat, that be enough. So I don't have to do it. But if you right now are using local and you live streaming through locals and you want to do this, this is the way to do it. So right now you have the p message, and the p message, if we go to the styles, you see that the style for p message is the index -1, and you have the content. You see the background here. We don't want that background because in the live chat I want that to be transparent. And when you see now, when you see, there's no white block in there, light gray blocks in there. So this instruction that I did, change that to transparent, and I will see if I can change that. If I use color white, that doesn't change anything, so that won't do anything. So the way I do this is that I copy the selector, and then with these selectors I just grab that, and but for the moment I just I just grab that and put it on a file so I can copy and paste it into OBS. But right now I'm just showing you where do I get. So right now we know that color white here won't do anything. So that means that when we go back to inspect, we go to the HTML map, when we go to inspect, we have something that is called message text and p message text. And when you see on the styles, you see here that the color is set here on this in the dark CSS, because it's obviously I'm using the dark mode, so it's calling the dark CSS from locals. So what I'm going to do, that I'm going to change this to white, and see that the font color changed to white. Let me show you the browser again. So now we have a nice contrast between, but still the font is hard to read, especially on that size. So if you look in the styles a little bit lower, you see that says font size. I'm gonna change that to 18 pixels, and if you go to the browser, now this is a little larger, and but still that font is hard to read. So what I'm going to do on the styles, I'm going to go to font family. I'm gonna change the font family. I'm gonna see if there's any effect, and I'm gonna select Poppins because I have that font installed on my system, and that's a font from Google, so you can download it for free. That's a very easy to read font. As you see, when you see in the browser, now it's more easy to read. especially for people that uses glasses like me, that easier to read. And if we change the size, I'm gonna change the size here, and you will see live changing in the browser there. I'm gonna change it to 20, and now it's a little bigger. So in in styles, in this, the p message underscore text and the p message underscore text as a child from all these elements and dark CSS. Now it's gonna be Poppins 22 pixels, affected by the rules in here. So that's how you manage the styles. Um, if if you don't if you want to know more about style, just Google CSS styles and look for look look tutorials. There's plenty of tutorial if you're new to CSS. For this tutorial, I'm suspecting that you already know a little bit of CSS, or you understand how to manipulate the CSS for a website. So this is a way to do it. If you want a full tutorial on CSS, I can do it. For beginners, I can do it too. But for now, this is how we do it on the developer styles. So right now, and that is reference to this class on the HTML map. You see the HTML map here? It has P, that is a tag for a tag, HTML tag for paragraph, and the class is P message. The class on CSS is represented by a dot, and you see that dot P message underscore content dot P message underscore text. This means that is a class. So we are affecting all the elements that has that class. Specifically for the dark mode, the P message, that is a child of the P message content, and the P message owner, P message content, P message text, P message content, P message text. Lari lari lari, yeah. There you go. So all right, so we change a little bit of the view of the browser, and that's really nice. But now I want to make this bold. So in the same place where I put the font family, I'm gonna put font weight, and I'm gonna say 700. 600 is the normal bold. 700 is like extra bold. So I put it 700, so that way we don't have to put popping extra bold, because probably that's not the way that the font call it. It's easier just to call the font weight and say I don't just want it bold, I want it a little bit extra bold. So now if you go to the browser, now you see that that chat changed a little bit more. So we have basically what we needed. There another thing that I'm noticing, and I'm gonna corroborate this, I have to find the parent of all this, and the parent of all this, I'm gonna right click and I said I'm going to the HTML map. I had the chat history, but we had the chat scroll, and you see the chat history. As you can see in the browser, the chat history is at the top of the chat scroll, and I wanted to go down, so it's gonna be in the chat, close to the chat, the text box where you implement the chat. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna select the chat scroll, right? So you see here the chat scroll, that's the parent. You see that it had highlights. It highlights the chat. It's highlighting the chat history, and now I'm gonna highlight the chat scroll. So that's the parent of the chat history. So I want that, which is a flex object, that the object is at the end instead of the top, at the bottom instead of the top. So selecting that chat scroll, let's go to the style. So in the style of the chat scroll here, you see that flex direction, display flex, and all that stuff. If you're using Chrome, you will see this open Flexbox editor. If you don't understand how Flexbox works, this is a good way to do it. So right now it's in flex direction column, and I'm gonna change it to flex direction reverse. And now if we go back to the browser, you'll see that the chat now is at the bottom. That way it will be more I don't know if I explain myself. So that basically that's most of everything that we want. Now would be the sim the only thing that we had to do is just looking for all those changes that we made. Another change I forgot. Another change I forgot is that in here I have this p message content, and it has a max width. I'm gonna remove that max width. So that max width go be from 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 be restricted to that size to almost take the whole thing, the whole area. And I can even remove the padding, and it will be more, there's more space to work on. That's something that I can do. But I'm gonna leave the padding as is. The only thing I'm gonna change is that I'm gonna remove the max width. I'm just gonna put it in inherit in the other. As you see, I'm removing that max width. So what I can do to test that it works, let me show you what I'm referring to. So right now, the max width is specified in the rules, but I can remove it like this. So that will be max width, and I'm gonna send to max content, and that would be the same principle. So I'm gonna show you in the browser what it does when I turn it on and turn it off. You see, the same principle. And I'm kind of liking removing the padding. So I'm thinking I'm gonna remove that padding. And another thing that we're going to do, I'm going to change that. I'm going to change this right now. You see that they have that spacing limited because of when you hover. But remember, you're not gonna hover over. You're not gonna interact with the chat in OBS. You're gonna interact with the chat in another screen. So these things does not affect the live chat directly. It's only affected for OBS, and in OBS there's no hover. You don't hover over the object, and this won't appear. So you don't have to worry about that. So I'm gonna remove the padding too. So let me make that on my notes because I have that. Um, Gonna my content. I'm gonna set padding 0. That's just changing to pad. Let me show you what I'm doing. Inspect. Um, where's the content? Here, the content. So the padding right now is like that. We're going to change that to 0, and we don't have to put pixel every time you use 0. You don't have to put pixel. And the same thing, we can get rid of this because we're not using it. So you're gonna be max with max content, and that's yeah, that's that's what we need. That's what we need. So now this is how it looks. This is how it looks. Another thing is that you see that the icon of the user is in the top, but I'm gonna put it to look in the middle, so it looks more cleaner because the circle looks like it go over, and when you look without the hover, with the hover it makes sense to have it there, but when you does not hover, so you don't have a marking, it looks out of place. So I'm gonna change that, and to change that I had to find the parent of all this, and the parent of all this would be, and let me show you in the HTML map, pMessage is the class pMessage on the dash dash owner dflex. So we're going to grab this and go into the styles, and in the style pMessage say content flex n, but we're gonna add a line here, align items center. Now when you go to the browser, now it looks in the center of this. So it looks more in line of what we want, but there's just something there that it seems like it has, the content has like a either a margin or a line height. Let's see if I can say line height. I'm gonna change to the line height. I'm gonna switch to 120%. That doesn't make any change there, so I'm going to remove it from there. So the line height, there's something here that is, so the content, I'm going to change it. What I'm going to change is to display flex. No, that doesn't make, doesn't, oh sorry, excuse me, doesn't work. I said save vertical align, vertical align center. No, that doesn't work either. So I have to work with that. Right now I'm trying to remove that space below. Here's the line height. Line height. Change to 1.2. Aha. 1.2. I still have that space. Oh, now it doesn't have that space. So now the icon looks more center. The icon looks more center. So that's what I need. I'm gonna change the line height to 1.2, as you can see in the styles. What I do, I come to here and I say copy. When you right click, it doesn't show it here, but when you right click you have a drop down that said, and it says copy all declaration. Let's try that one. I didn't try that one before, and I say paste. Yeah, it doesn't select. So right now I'm going back here, and you see that it's highlighted. I right click on it and I say copy selector in the drop down. So when I go back to VS Code, when I go back to VS Code, you see all declarations. What it did is copy everything that it was there. So I'm gonna copy the selector, and then with curly bracket, I'm gonna move all this. And to move all this without having to copy paste, you if you're using VS Code, you can download VS Code. It's free. Just search for Visual Studio Code or VS Code, and Google will show you the download page. Download, install it. So alternate, by pressing alternate arrow up, you see that all the declarations went inside the rule, the selector rule. And to make this easy to read, I'm just going to put this all in different lines so we know. So all the selectors that you see on the styles, all the selectors that you see on the styles are copied, and I bring it over to the new file. And later, everything that you do there in VS Code, everything that you do on VS Code, you paste it in OBS, but I will show you that later. So right now, let's transfer everything, all the changes that we made here. So let's go one by one. Let's go one by one. So right now, in the HTML map, let me go back here. In the HTML map, I'm going to select the chat scroll, because remember that we changed something here, we changed something here, and I think the only thing that we changed is the flex direction. So I'm gonna copy the selector, going back to VS Code, I paste that, curly brackets, and going back to the styles, I hover over this rule. I say copy declaration, I go back there and I copy and paste it. So now we had the chat scroll column reverse. On the chat hit, on the let's go back to the HTML map. So we go back to the chat history on the styles. History. Did we make any changes to the chat history? I don't think so. Let's go back. P message. Yeah, we changed something here. So we had the copy selector. Go to, I'm gonna do this real quick. Copy selector, and I'm gonna copy this declaration. Copy declaration. There you go. So now you see that I have the P message owner. Separate so it's easier to read. So go back to the HTML map. On the HTML map, so we have the P message content. Remember that we did something there. We're gonna copy the selector back to the code and paste here. And to make it easy to read, everything I put in a new line, everything that is separated by a comma, space, curly bracket, and I'm going back to the CSS and I'm gonna copy all the declaration, but I'm gonna remove the color. So you know already how I did everything. So I'm not gonna go back and forward. I'm just gonna show you. Remember that we have the on the HTML map we have the P message text. So we're going to the style, and I'm gonna copy this whole thing here, copy selector. Actually, we already did this one, so we don't have to do that one. So we going to the second one that we have when it affected the declaration on the dark CSS, but now we had to deal with the things that we changed in the Rubin.css. So we're going to change that, and I think the only thing that we did here was the font size and the height, right? Right? So that's we're gonna do that. So now I'm gonna come here and copy selector, going back to VS Code. I'm gonna put it under that one so we know where it comes from. I copy the selector, curly brackets, go back to the styles, and what we did there, p-message text, and I'm gonna copy all declarations. There's something here. I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna delete it. I'm not even gonna show you what I did in VS Code. I'm gonna right click and say all CSS changes. I'm gonna copy that. I'm gonna go to VS Code to see what that does, and that does bring anything. So let's go back to the style and copy all the declarations, but then on VS Code we only gonna use the ones that we changed. That was the line height and the font size. This following the instructions from What Up Ian. I'm doing basically everything that he showed you there, but I'm doing it specifically for locals because there's just one change on that, and it's what I explain later. As you see, they have different CSS for dark mode and light mode, and apparently they have many other rules because they have the Rubin CSS. I'm suspecting that if you select another team, it's gonna be another CSS, but they are gonna affect those specific classes. So as far as I understand, that's all I need for that specific thing. Now, one thing I want to change is how it looks for the owner only. So when you reply, people knows that it's you that are replying, so they are more pay attention to something that is visible real quick, not just the icon by the side of the. Remember the icon on here, this icon. Um, People can see that, but it is easier if there's a more visual way to see that. And and what I'm gonna do is that I have a different background for when I reply. Just let's do it so you know exactly what I'm talking about. So let's go to the styles again, and I'm gonna select this, the content. Where was it? Here. No, that's the message, and this is the content. And is this the content? Yes, this is the content. So p-message owner. So I'm pretty sure this p-message owner is for the user, and but there's another way to target this, because probably you have different owners, but if you want people that are a specific owner, you see there's something here that is called data username designers gate. You know that your user is this one. My user in locals is designers gate, so I can reference that on the style. um, And we can do that by, I'm gonna create a new declaration here. I'm gonna change this p message and I'm gonna put in square brackets data user name equals designers gate, and then I add something here like background. I say background, let's say RGBA. Let's say what happened when I put it on black, 0 0 0. And the next declaration will be the alpha channel is the transparency. It goes from 0 to 1, so 0.5 is 50%, 0.8 is 80%. So basically, so I'm gonna do 0.5. So now that will be, let's put 0.3. So now we know that we can control the browser view of the user, from a specific user. So you can have a control to the color of the background of a specific user. So if you have 2 or 3 owners, you can have one color specifically for each owner. I hope that makes sense. I was trying to make sure to see if someone would reply on the live chat so we can see the difference, but I don't have many followers. I probably just have to follow. I'm just studying in local, so I'm preparing everything, and while I'm preparing, I creating this tutorial so you in the future know how to do it yourself. All right, so so we can do that. So right now I can copy the selector on the styles. I'm gonna copy this selector on the style, copy selector. I'm going back to VS Code. Let's open VS Code. P message word that, and then I'm gonna copy declaration. I'm gonna put that there. And I noticed that I did something else. And actually, yeah, I can do that. But this would be cleaner. P message where data username instead of just adding the owner. So that would be different. And I use this color, so I'm gonna copy it. Copy. Oops, not there. Control X. Control P. Gonna cut that line, and that's it. If you just have your OBS as default, you will see a dialog box at the bottom of the screen where all your scenes, audio mixer, and stuff are. That is called sources, and in here I added a browser source that it gave me all these properties. So if you click on the plus sign, you see the browser, and that's where this dialog will show up. Okay, but I already have it, so I don't need to add it. So I'm going to put this back where it belongs. So now, as you can see, when you bring a source, you just post the URL of the chat. In my case, my live post Q&A from locals. I got it I got it from, if you go to the browser, from the URL that the browser shows me, you won't see it here. um, so that's where I got that URL. I just copy and paste it there, and I make sure that I put a 1920 by 1080. I'm going back to code, and I'm gonna copy everything that we changed there. I'm gonna post it, copy there, and I'm gonna bring it all the way here. So you see everything that we have in VS Code, and since I save it in another file, if I lose something, or I delete the object from OBS, I can go back and recover it without having to go to all the process of looking on the map, on the shima map, the browser, the styles, and other stuff. Hey Mittens, how you doing? I have a visitor, my cat. So once I do that, if when I hit OK, you see the changes that shows here. Now I'm gonna bring back the properties, and you see all the change, the behavior that you see there, right? And that's all in the browser property. Now, how can I make it so it looks transparent and I can remove all this? That is not done here in these properties, okay? For that, you need the filters. You have to bring the filters. I'm gonna put it here so we can see what we're doing. Cover all this so you don't get confused. So in the filters, you have audio filters and effect filters. In here, I'm gonna add a color key, and the color key, I'm just gonna say this is gonna be the locals on browser key. So I cannot name it the same as the ones that I have already. So the key, I'm just gonna look for that color, for this color in the content of the. And to do that, you just go to your browser, and there's an extension that you can get that is called uh, Colorzilla. In the, let me see if I can show you. If you go to the, if you're using Chrome or Edge, you go to the Chrome store. Let's go Chrome store. And you look for Colorzilla, and you can install that. I already have it installed, so I don't have to install it again. And that will show you an icon with an eye drop. So if I go back to, the browser and I press that icon, it's gonna show me a color picker, and you see that is selecting by section. In the section, it gives you a color that you see that is in the top here. You'll see the color that it is showing you. It has the RGB, the hex code, and whatever other, and it gives you also the size of the object, apparently. Yeah, but we don't have the size, we just need the color. So I copy that, and you see copy to the clipboard, 1F, 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 and with that color, we go back to the OBS screen, and instead of the key color type, we go to custom color and select color, and I'm gonna paste that color there. And now this is completely transparent. Alright, so I'm gonna bring an image so you see image. Um, let's select that image and I'm gonna put it in the back so you see that the chat is transparent. You see now the chat is transparent. I'm gonna reduce the size of this. Getting confusing, I know. So right now we had that image and you see that the chat is transparent because it's grabbing everything that is that color and set it as the key, like the green screen, but in this case would be that gray color. So I'm gonna hide this so we don't get confused. And now another filter that you're gonna add is the crop pad. It's a locals on browser crop. Okay, so I'm gonna do that. Now, since this is more specific, I can use this really quick. I have some properties already set up for this, so it's quicker. So on the left, we had to cut, since I have it at 1920 by 1080, I have precise cuts that I can do. For example, 1375 pixels, it crops all the way to the corner, and you see here that all that was cropped. Now we crop from the top. You can use the same parameters if you do it 1920 by 1080. Depending on what size do you want the screen to be, you can put a 1280 by 720, and then you have to figure out how many pixels. But for 1920 by 1080, these are the the pixels that you had to cut from the top. You crop from the top 110, and you see that the top of the the top of the chat and the website is cropped, and from the bottom, the right, you don't have to cut anything because it's already on the right side of the screen. From the bottom, we're gonna cut how much it is, 100 pixels, and there you go. Now we have, if I turn on that again, now you have the chat that is completely transparent and is cropping even the colors in the image. That's something that you have to deal with, probably adding like a color source. Black. I'm gonna create it black because I don't have anything, and I'm gonna select alpha channel. So can play around, but this is basically what it is. And also what I did, as you can see in the chat, is kind of like fade towards the top. And what for that, what you need to do is just create an image. Let me see if I have it here. An image, and I have a tutorial about that talks about how to create masks for OBS. It's in my Rumble Designers Gate page. Just look for Designers Gate in Rumble, and you will see OBS mask with Affinity Publisher, and I explain how can I create those. For example, I created a top fade, and I can apply it to the chat. If I go back to OBS, if I select the chat, I can add what is it? Image mask. Say locals home browser mask. Always to have a different, a unique name. And I'm gonna select that. Going to my overlays and look for top fade, and okay. And now you see that the chat fades on the top. So basically that's what I did. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it works for you, what I did, and I hope you like it. Thank you. Take care. Have a good day. God bless.